Good afternoon and welcome to Seniors Count. I'm your host, Annette Richardson. On our show today, we believe that you are the foundation for which Boston was built. So our goal is to connect you to resources, benefits, information to enhance your life. Thank you for joining us. And today, my guest is Dr. Aaron Metzger, the Director of Psychiatry at Hebrew Senior Life. He's here to talk about a common type of depression called seasonal affective disorder. And thanks for being here. Hi, Dr. Metzger. How are you?
Fine. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Good. Now, can you tell me what is seasonal affective disorder?
Seasonal affective disorder is a subtype of clinical depression that is related to the time of year, and the symptoms predictably come at a typical time of year. There are two different types. The one that is most common is the fall onset seasonal affective disorder that most of your viewers have probably heard something about, where symptoms come on with diminishing light at the end of the summer. But there is also a summer onset seasonal affective disorder, which is less well known but can be just as debilitating.
Okay, and how long does the disorder last? Say the winter one, does it last until like the equinox or whatever, when the sun starts getting longer?
That's right. It does seem to relate to the amount of light, and as the amount of light increases at the end of the winter equinox, so do the symptoms abate. But there are ways of treating the symptoms before that if you choose to undergo treatment. Okay.
Now, how long does it last? Like you said, the winter one. I don't understand how someone gets depressed for the summertime, for the light. How is that?
Yeah, it's hard for those of us who prefer the summer and the light to think of someone getting more depressed with increased light. But if you talk to people who experience this, they find that they are more irritable with the increased light. They have trouble sleeping. They lose their appetite. So it really is a bona fide form of depression, and it can last for weeks or months if it's not treated, again, until there's a change in the seasons.
Okay. Now, can this disorder be considered a disease?
We do think of any kind of depressive disorder as a medical disease, if you will, and it deserves medical treatment, just like high blood pressure or diabetes. One of the myths that has been around for a long time about mental disorders, and particularly depression, is that it represents not so much a medical disorder, but a failure of character. And that if you were just a stronger person, if you, quote unquote, pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, you could get over this depression. But we know now from many years of research that for many people it is a real medical condition, and it deserves medical attention.
Okay. Now, are some people more prone than others to be afflicted with this disorder?
So in most types of depression, and seasonal affective disorder is no exception, women are affected more often than men. We don't really understand the basis of that. However, with seasonal affective disorder, with that type of depression, the ratio is a little more even. So you do see more men affected by seasonal affective disorder than in other types of depression. And actually, if you look at that summer onset seasonal affective disorder, it looks like maybe more men are affected by that than women. Yeah.
And what age group generally is more prone to this disorder?
If you are going to get seasonal affective disorder, you probably will have your first episode when you're in your early 20s. There are case reports of kids getting seasonal affective disorder. The good news for your older audience is that if they haven't had it up until this point, they're probably not going to develop seasonal affective disorder at an older age.
Okay. Now, can this disorder lead to a higher rate of suicide. I know, like sometimes in the winter, fall, winter time, there's a higher rate of people doing themselves harm.
Yeah, having an episode of depression is a risk factor for suicide, no matter what type of depression it is. So while we don't have specific data about suicides related to seasonal affective disorder specifically, anybody who's experiencing a depression is at a higher risk for suicide, and that would include someone who's experiencing an episode of seasonal affective disorder. I will say that if you look at emergency room data and suicide rates, that the suicide rates are highest actually in the spring and summer, not in the winter. So seasonal affective disorder alone is not responsible for higher suicide rates overall.
Okay. And what steps can be taken to alleviate some of the symptoms of seasonal affective? And for the short, it's called SAD.
That's right.
It's called SAD. So seasonal affective disorder. What are some things we can do?
That's one of those
prevent?
acronyms that's easy to remember because it makes sense. So the first thing to do is just acknowledge that you have it. Taking a step back and noticing, you know, I've been getting depressed every fall because some people don't even realize that there's a pattern until someone asks them. Once you've acknowledged that there's a pattern, there are ways of addressing it rather than just waiting for the sunlight to come back. And one of the most effective treatments is also one of the safest treatments that we have in psychiatry, and that is light therapy.
Okay. Now, light therapy, does that mean you have to, is it like things you can put in your house, or maybe your job can implement some place like that, or do you have to go somewhere to get light therapy?
You can get light therapy just about anywhere.
Okay.
Usually it's done by purchasing a specific type of light that has a particular type of brightness. You can't just take any old household lamp.
Okay.
And you start off by sitting in front of the light, usually to start with about 15 minutes a day, and you increase that gradually so that you're doing it every day from 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay.
You don't stare at the light for 30 minutes.
Okay.
You could be sitting reading the newspaper and just glancing up at the light occasionally. So many people will use light therapy in the morning while they're having their morning coffee and reading the newspaper. But you can bring a light box to work, and I have seen people have the light box on their desk at work.
Okay.
People are getting more comfortable acknowledging that this is a real condition. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person, and letting coworkers know that, you know, I'm going to use this box for a half hour every day.
They might have to share it around the office, actually.
That's right. You'll probably get other people wanting to borrow it.
Yeah. So now the light box, is that, it's a full spectrum light bulb? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, usually it's a fluorescent light rather than an incandescent light because that seems to be easier on the eyes. And there are lists on medical websites of reputable dealers of light boxes, both here and in Canada. They can be a little bit pricey, a few $100s at least. And unfortunately, most insurance companies don't cover this. I think they should, because compared to the cost of medications, it's actually an inexpensive therapy, and it's a very safe therapy. And it is possible to find also on websites such as Craigslist or eBay, light boxes that people don't want anymore, that they're willing to sell at a reduced price. Because the light boxes last a long time.
All right. Now, the medications that you can take as well for this?
Yeah, so it is a type of clinical depression, and just like other types of clinical depression, it does respond to antidepressants. There have been good research studies showing that the antidepressants that we use for other types of depression also work for seasonal affective disorder.
Okay. All right. So just to recap really quick, it's a type of depression, seasonal. I say affective. It's affective with an A, disorder. Right. There's two different types. One for the winter, which is the most common, and then there's one for the summer, which I don't understand. But I can't wait till summer gets here. it's not a disease, but it's kind of, it's a depression, so, which can still be considered sort of a disease.
A medical
A
disorder.
medical disorder. And women are more prone to getting sad.
They're more prone, to all types of depression,
To all
including
types
sad.
of depression. Okay. And the age group most likely to get it would be like early 20s and on after
That's
that.
the usual age of onset, the age at which you'll first have an episode, but then it can recur, right through old age.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like most types of depression, but there can be a higher incidence of suicide, but it's not specifically geared towards that.
That's right. You don't see higher rates of suicide with SAD than you do with other types of depression.
Okay.
In fact, the suicide rates may be a little bit lower.
Okay. And then you can purchase, there's either medications that can be taken for depression that will help that, but the best one would be like a light box and get a specific kind of light so you can have that in your home or in the office.
Right.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is holiday depression, or we said holiday blues.
Yeah, so we thought we would talk a little bit about low mood that comes about during this time of year that seems to be associated with the holidays, that isn't quite seasonal affective disorder. So it doesn't have the severity of symptoms that a clinical depression has, but makes people feel down. And we thought we would talk about some of the reasons why people may develop this and what they can do about it.
Okay, now holidays come and go. Are there more? What holidays usually are the ones who will make people more depressed, or is this any holiday? It depends.
Seems to be the holidays around the fall and the winter, and there does seem to be some overlap between the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder and the holiday blues and what goes on during the holidays.
Okay.
So, for example, if you think about the holidays that are celebrated around the fall and the winter, those are holidays where we tend to eat a lot of food. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, and it's probably no coincidence that one of the symptoms of winter onset seasonal affective disorder is actually increased appetite and weight gain, which is in contrast to many other types of depression where people lose their appetite.
Okay.
So I think there is a tendency with this time of year to be more hungry, to crave carbohydrates, to crave sweets. So again, I think it's no coincidence that that's what these holidays feature, is big meals, often with a lot of sweets, including Halloween, to kick off the season.
But it's cold. You have to eat when it's cold. It warms you up.
Right. But I think then that is one of the pressures associated with this time of year, is that there is a lot of food to eat, and many people are trying to keep to a diet.
Yeah.
So it's stressful to try to maintain a diet and yet entertain or be entertained at the holidays. And people feel discouraged when they don't keep to their diets.
Yeah. As I said before, I've gotten over that part, so I'm not worried about that because I can hit the gym later on if I can find one close by.
Well, I think that is an example of a way of addressing this, is acknowledging that this is going to be a pressure during the season, that you're going to be around a lot of food, meaning, I don't mean just you, but your audience. And you can come up with a plan for limiting what you eat, but also a plan for dealing with it afterwards, like going to the gym, so that you don't feel stressed out about it.
And another thing would be, I think, is for the holiday blues is anniversaries, certain types of anniversaries. When someone passes away during a holiday season or span, that's hard to deal with, regardless of how long ago it's been. That's something to me that...
Exactly. And particularly in those first few years after having lost a loved one, noticing they're absent at a big holiday
family gathering things.
Yeah, can be sad. So that's another reason why the holidays can evoke sadness. Yeah.
Okay. Are there ways to get around that? It's hard to just say deal with it, because you can't really say that to somebody, just deal with it. But you have to kind of, give them their space and let them.
Yeah, I think the first step again is just acknowledging this is a difficult time of year, that it doesn't make me a bad or a weak person, that I'm having a hard time. and appreciating that actually it's a difficult time of year for a lot of people.
It is.
You wouldn't know that from watching TV and all the happy faces on the advertisements that encourage us to go out and spend for the holidays. But many people are under stress during the holidays.
Yes.
So you're not alone in feeling that. And there are ways of coping with that. We talked about eating. The other stress is around spending. There's a lot of pressure to spend a lot of money during the holidays. And it's stressful for people who have limited incomes. And there seems to be this expectation that you'll go out and spend a lot of money. It doesn't have to be that way, and there are ways of experiencing joy for the holidays that don't involve having to spend a lot of money. Right.
My family, we grew up with the idea that if you're going to give a gift, it should be something that's from you. So we used to make, we made things. If you know how to sew, you'd make a little scarf, or you'd crochet, so everything. The rule was it can be anything you want, but it had to be handmade. So that's one way to get, you know.
Yeah.
That's something that I've always had a problem with, having to go to the store and buying stuff. I want something, if I give you something, I want to be something, a part of me that I've given to you. So even if it's like bake a pie or a small cake, or make a little outfit for somebody, something that means something that you'll have a better time holding on to.
Exactly.
You know, so I think that's a good.
Yeah, and families will get together. They'll call their brothers or sisters, cousins, and say, well, why don't we try something different this year? Let's not give each other presents. Let's make something for each other. Let's bake something, or let's just enjoy each other's company.
Exactly. Sit down and watch movies.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it, because we're so spread out now. In our world, we're so spread out. Just being able to come together and just spend some time, a couple of days together in each other's presence, it should be a good thing.
Yep.
You know. So, if you'd like to expand a little bit on anything that we've spoken about.
Another way that the holidays can be stressful is that you do come in contact with family members who you haven't seen for a while.
Oh, yeah.
That might be intentional, because there may be some friction with some of the family members. So it can be stressful getting ready to see people you haven't seen in a while with whom you know that there's going to be some tension. Again, just acknowledging that this is a stressful time, that you're going to get through it. You may want to actually find someone to talk to about that if you're really anticipating that there's going to be some conflict. So a counselor or a psychotherapist who you could just brainstorm with about how to get through this period.
All right. Thank you again for coming. I appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. I know you're a very busy person. I appreciate you coming in to speak with us about seasonal affective disorder, as well as the holiday blues.
Well,
again,
I really appreciate your giving this some attention and making this information available to your audience.
Oh, and I'd like to do it again. We have some other things we could talk about too.
Be my pleasure.
Thank you. So thanks for watching Seniors Count, brought to you by Mayor Thomas M. Menino and our Commissioner Emily Shea. To contact us, please call 617-635-4366 and the Mayor's 24-hour hotline at 617-635-4500. Or you can email us at elderly@cityofboston.gov. And you can like us on Facebook. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself,